here at Loving Counseling and Consultation, and today I'm going to talk to you about grief and depression and some of the differences and overlaps between those two, and some coping strategies that, as your therapist, I would help walk you through in order to help alleviate the symptoms from either of those. We can start with grief. So grief is losing someone or something that was really dear to you due to them passing away. So a loved one, an animal, anything like that. Looking at kind of feeling hollow with that person being gone, or really just feeling everything is out of whack after you lose someone. And then there's a term called complicated grief. This happens whenever you lose someone, but you find out something upsetting about them after they pass away, something like their character that you might question after they've passed away. So for example, if your grandfather passed away and in 10 years you learn that he actually had another family and was cheating on your grandmother during his time alive, that would be something, if you struggled with that we would call complicated grief. And just anything that would change that perception of that person's character that you thought you knew when they were alive. The third term that I'd like to talk about is disenfranchised grief. This is any kind of grief that doesn't have to do with a death of someone. So getting fired from a job, moving away from family and friends and starting in a new place, getting removed like socially from family, whether by choice or theirs. So the term like cutting someone off, implementing boundaries that weren't being respected. So these situations can cause feelings of grief, which may not always be recognized societally. And so the term disenfranchised grief means that you're still going to go through stages of grief, but it may not be as widely recognized. But you're still going to feel that loss in your life. Some ways that we might work with you as a therapist in order to help you with your grief is going to look differently based on the kind of grief that you're experiencing. For grief of the loss of a loved one, we might encourage you to write a letter to that person or animal that you've lost, especially in cases of sudden death where you weren't able to tell the person how much they meant to you, how much you're going to miss them. Sometimes that can be really healing for people. We might also encourage you to journal whenever you're feeling sad, things that you would like to say to that person, or a situation like you would have wanted to enjoy with that person. So helping you identify the ways that that loss has impacted your life, allowing you to process all of those emotions and situations that you're currently going through. For complicated grief, we'd obviously want to help you work through all of the perceptions you thought you had about the person versus what you now know after they're gone, things that you wish you could have said to them had you known about the situation, just things like that. So complicated grief can have a lot of different looks, and so it would really depend on the situation what we would help you work through. And then disenfranchised grief, therapists really do a good job just sitting with people in their pain. And so if you find that your pain is being minimized or you're not feeling heard, we work incredibly well with disenfranchised grief just because we know your perception of the loss is really important. And so we're not going to talk you out of being sad just because you moved far from home or you're not in contact with toxic people anymore. We're going to work with you on that and help you feel heard and understood. You can also do a variety of techniques with that as well. So depression, I'll move into that now, can look a lot of different ways for different people, which is so vague and not very helpful. It can cause listlessness, so you may feel nothing at all. Sometimes depression can cause numbness rather than sadness. Sometimes depression can come out as anger, and sometimes it can be complete and utter sadness. Hopelessness, not wanting to get out of bed, eating too little, eating too much, not going to bed, not sleeping a lot. So there's a million different examples of depression, but if you feel that there's a sense that you don't feel like yourself, that you're reacting emotionally in a way that you normally don't, kind of lashing out at people, that could be a variety of things. It could also be depression. And so if you notice any of these things in yourself, you're not enjoying things like you used to, it might feel like there's a spark in your life that really has just gone out. Then your therapist is going to work with you on how to ignite that spark again. And of course, these are baby steps. You're not going to come in and be healed after your first session. We don't have a magic wand, even though I can promise you we wish we did sometimes. If you don't want to leave your house, if you're stuck in bed, your therapist might challenge you, like, one day this week for an hour, get out of your home, take a walk in a neighborhood, go to a coffee shop. And the good thing about your therapist giving you homework is if you forget or you don't or can't do it, then we're going to brainstorm with you on ways that we can either get you there, or if that's too far out of reach, another baby step to get you there eventually. I think the best thing to know with therapy is that you're in the driver's seat. We're here to facilitate and hold you accountable, but we're never going to push you to do things you don't want to do. And so with depression as well, we can do any kind of like workbook and prompts, journaling, encouraging you to exercise, such as yoga, running, HIIT workouts, any of that, if you're physically able to do so, because there's many benefits of exercise. We might encourage you to connect with an old friend, anything like that could be helpful and meaningful to ignite that spark back in your life. We will definitely do that. So thank you for listening. I do want to share with you that I am not the end all be all. You can Google search on other methods of coping, other symptoms and things like that. While I am a therapist, I'm not perfect, and I'm pretty open about that with clients because some days I might be human too, for sure. And so as you're seeking answers to struggles that you might be having, other therapists are going to have different coping mechanisms that they might share with you and different definitions or symptoms. So feel free to go out and explore what you're feeling, and thank you for listening.